What else can we do? I mean, Sam, I don't think there's any other appropriate way to start the show. We got to give credit where credit is due, no?
Absolutely.
What's up, everybody? It's Wednesday night, week 15 here on Big Blue Avenue. I'm Tom Scavetta, joined alongside Sam Cardona. Appreciate you all joining our show. Quick reminder, if you're new, check us out on all of our social media on Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube at Big Blue Avenue, or here on Facebook Live if you're catching us. How are you feeling, Sam? You just recorded with Jordan for your other show, Unsolicited. You talked about Tommy DeVito. We're here now on Big Blue Avenue. Zero transition for you. How's it going? And how are you feeling?
I mean, I have not felt this good all season, really. Like, even after that Cardinals win, and even after these few wins we've had with Tommy DeVito, this was like such a pivotal game for us and for like the entire NFC. Like, we are literally single-handedly shaping the NFC playoff picture. And Tommy DeVito is just having fun while he's doing it. I'm just so in awe with the way he was able to have a game-winning drive, use Wan'Dale Robinson, use Saquon Barkley, use all these guys. There was so much happening, and we were texting through this game, and I was literally like, we were both saying like, what universe are we living in right now? Like, what is happening? I got my Soprano shirt on today. I always wear this, but I got my Italian horn on today. Like, we're really leaning into this, and I'm just living in this moment right now. I'm enjoying it. I'm having fun. We're on a win streak, and we're one game out of the playoffs.
It's incredible. Incredible the way things have panned out, Sam. I'm happy you're loving it because I'm loving it too. Monday night, I slept maybe 2 to 3 hours. Caught up last night, thankfully, but Monday night was brutal. After that game, it's like, how do you fall asleep after a game like that? I personally couldn't.
No, I was like wound up.
Yeah.
Like, I had to take a melatonin to fall asleep because I was like so amped.
Yes. Melatonin is the key to any Giants victory if you're wound up. Might be good for a loss too, to just forget about it. But here. Let me start off by saying that the Giants can get into a playoff spot this week if 5 things happen. If the Giants beat the Saints, if the Bucks beat the Packers, if the Vikings lose to the Bengals, if the Rams lose, and then there's one other team that has to lose. I think Atlanta has to lose to Carolina, so that won't happen. But just saying, it's not far-fetched. And improving to 5-8, now on a 3-game winning streak, folks. Big Blue has won their first Monday Night Football game since 2018. They had an 8-game losing streak on Monday Night Football, and Sam, I hate to say it, Tommy DeVito is starting to do things that Daniel Jones has not done in 5 years.
Yep.
DeVito handed Matt LaFleur his first loss as a head coach in December. He completed 81% of his passes for a touchdown, 113.9 passer rating. And he was named NFC Offensive Player of the Week. Taking the storylines aside for just a moment, I know it's exciting to talk about. Let's talk about Tommy DeVito, the player, and what he was able to do out there, especially late in the game. I feel like once the Giants got the ball back on that last drive, I had a feeling they were going to score, and they did.
Yeah, it was. I honestly, after that crazy Green Bay touchdown happened, like, for a hot second, I thought maybe he wasn't in, but as the replays happened, like, it was very obvious that he had scored a touchdown, and I was like pretty pissed off about it. But I was like, okay, there was about a minute and a half left on the clock, and I was like, why do I have all this faith in Tommy DeVito right now to get down the field, at least into field goal position and kick a field goal? And Randy Bullock, I didn't have as much faith in. I'm not going to lie to you. I was feeling a little nervous about the kick, but no, like he stepped on the field, and I think it's this energy, like not only his talents, because his numbers were not astronomically great. They were not like these phenomenal numbers, but I think even Troy Aikman said it. He was like, he's just doing his job. Like, he's doing what he needs to do to win this game. And like, he was getting the ball into Saquon's hands. He was getting the ball into Wandale's hands. He was getting the ball into Isaiah Hodgins' hands. Like, it was just working. And the energy, I think, is not only the fans, but the players are feeling it, because not only did Tommy DeVito not take any sacks, which means that our offensive line improved, the defense looked incredible. Like, I was like, where did this come from? So I think that this confidence in our quarterback, which is not to say Daniel Jones didn't have confidence, but there's a different type of swagger about Tommy DeVito that's just like really rippling. And like I said, his talent is there and he's doing what he needs to do, but he's not like monumental talent. He's just utilizing his team to their greatest strengths, which is what we've been trying to do for years. And it's really comforting to see somebody actually being able to do it, as opposed to the struggles that we've been seeing these past few years.
I'm with you. And quick shout out to Steven tuning in from Virginia Beach tonight. Thank you very much, Steven. Appreciate you. Yeah, you know, the player, he brings in a type of excitement, a lot of energy. This is the best rookie quarterback play we've seen since Phil Simms, to be honest with you. Not to compare him to Phil Simms, but, I mean, you got the dad and the agent kissing each other in the stands. By the way, I want to say this right now. Sean Stellato, that was an act. I immediately looked up pictures of him. He's never wearing a fedora. He doesn't do that stuff on the regular. DeVito, his family, his agent, all of them are playing into this storyline a little bit and fabricating it. They're exaggerating it more than we would like regardless. I don't care. It's awesome. I watched the DeVito presser today. Reporters are still asking him about being Italian and from New Jersey. I think he's starting to get tired of it just a little bit because they want to focus on DeVito winning. I want to focus on DeVito winning at this point. That's just a plus to DeVito, the person, because he can relate to the area, right? A lot of fans here, you know, have similar background to Tommy DeVito in that specific area of North Jersey. And, you know, a lot of people like him for it. If DeVito was doing this in, let's say, Washington or Atlanta, this won't be as big of a story for sure. And to your point on the defense, Sam, I mean, Bobby Okereke, Deonte Banks, Jason Pinnock, the three of them have been incredible all season long. The defense now has 12 created turnovers over the last 3 games. That's the most in the NFL over the last month. That includes the Giants having a bye week. So 1 week, they're in that 4-week stretch, and we've still created the most turnovers in the National Football League over 4 weeks. Deonte Banks held Jaden Reed to 8 catches. 8 catches, a lot of catches, but just for 27 yards. I mean, he's a stud. He really is a stud, and I'm excited for him and his future.
Yeah. No, I again, I don't know if it's the Tommy DeVito effect or the confidence or whatever, but this defense looked outstanding, like I said before. And maybe, you know, there was this turn of events, but I'd like to think that Wink Martindale is just starting to shift. He's just starting to teach these guys and coach these guys the correct way and to utilize them correctly against certain offenses, because obviously the Packers looked bad. Like, the Packers looked atrocious, and it was like jumping on that vulnerability that it's like, they're playing bad, let's make them play even worse for our benefit. And it worked. And like the turnovers rate, even I'll throw Kayvon in there too. You know, he was doing an incredible job as well. I'm very impressed. And we would not have been able to win that game if it were not for the defense. The defense played if not 50-50, if not 70-30 part of that game, because it was a huge deal. Stopping them on that second, the 2-point conversion, huge, changed the game. So I huge shout out. I know we're talking so much about Tommy, but huge shout out to the defense. The defense deserves a lot of props, folks. Ashawn Robinson has filled in beautifully for Leonard Williams since being traded. Kayvon Thibodeau had half a sack. Now has 11.5 sacks on the season. Pinnock had the pick, his second of the year. Azeez Ojulari got his first sack of the season. And not just that, he played well in run defense. He looked really good. He had 3 QB hits.
He had the second highest PFF grade among any defender on the Giants this week. Dexter Lawrence. So, I mean, that goes to show you a lot. Like, Azeez, when healthy, is really good. I had a coworker telling me, you need to draft somebody good opposite of Kayvon Thibodeau. And I'm like, we have somebody good. He's just never on the field.
Yeah.
He's never on the field.
It's a big deal. Like, staying healthy is one of the biggest parts of the game. Like, if you're not there, you can't play, no matter how you play. So health is important.
What's up, goofballs? Appreciate you. Says Azeez can be a good player, will be a good player if he can stay healthy. Keep in mind he dropped for a reason, though. Yeah, injuries back, I think, late in high school that he had, goofballs. Yeah, so it's just one of those scenarios where if he can stay on the field, if he switched the way he trained this past offseason. He's been training a lot differently. Unfortunately, he still had a brief stint on the IR, and he's had trouble getting back into this defense. I'm going to point out that, Sam, we have not mentioned his name yet on the show this season. Benton Whitley, who recovered that fumble on special teams, has displaced Boogie Basham. Boogie Basham was a healthy scratch on Monday Night Football, on top of Paris Campbell, by the way. But for Benton Whitley's purpose, he's played so well since coming in. His number was called upon, and he's done really, really good stuff, and I'm proud of him. So, yeah, Azeez needs to step up. Other guys are stepping up. Dexter Lawrence had 4 pressures on 20 pass rushing snaps, and I think part of the reason why we're just one game out of a playoff spot, the defense was never going to be bad throughout the whole season. I'll argue they were average to above average most of the season. Now they're really good. And Sam, it kind of emphasizes the point that Wink Martindale must return in 2024.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. Like I said before, he's working on this defense, and it's very obvious that he's doing what he needs to do. And this defense is looking the best it has all season. So whatever, even if there was any sort of tiff between him and Dable, it's very obvious that they have either put it aside, figured it out, or just been like, this is a professional environment. Let's be professional. And they're handling it well. And again, whether or not it happened, we really don't know what's going on with that situation, but I would love to see Wink back, and I would greet him with open arms.
And finally, back to the offense, since we pretty much spent it all on DeVito. Barkley was good outside of that fumble. Giants had 209 total rushing yards. Wan'Dale, 115 total yards. Wan'Dale's turning into that gadget player, Sam. We want him to. He's being everything that Kadarius Toney was supposed to be. And I love it. I love it.
I just have to say, not to veer off topic, but just the fact that Kadarius Toney was the reason why the Chiefs lost that game on Sunday just made me laugh. Like, come on, dude. Line up the way you're supposed to. If you're offsides or not. Like, let's not be too hasty here.
And the play of the game for me on Monday night, Sam, the Isaiah Hodgins catch, corner of the end zone. That catch had an 18% catch probability rate, according to Next Gen. So, incredible work by Isaiah.
Yeah. I know, and when I had to step away at that point in time in the game, and I had texted you like, "Oh my God, there's points on the board! Like, who scored?" And you said Isaiah Hodgins, and I was like, "Isaiah Hodgins! I didn't even know he was still around. Like, we haven't seen him all year." So that was just great that DeVito's passing the ball around. We're seeing Wan'Dale a lot more. We're seeing Hodgins a lot more. I wish we saw a little bit more Hyatt in the mix in this past game, but whatever works.
I think part of it too is Hyatt was kind of taking Hodgins snaps away, and now Hodgins is getting sprinkled more back in. That Hyatt's sort of taking a back seat. In reality, I think it should be Darius Slayton that is taking a back seat a little bit. And I know other content creators have a different opinion on that, and that's totally okay. Slayton's on a 2-year deal. He won't be here past next season at most, in my personal opinion, especially if they move on from Daniel Jones, because that's Jones's boy. Right. Hodgins, Wan'Dale, and Hyatt, those are the future 3 for me. If you want to draft somebody and get a bona fide number 1, or try to develop Hyatt into a bona fide number 1, great. No problem with that. But right now, those need to be the three that are on the field the most. Those are the three we want to learn about the most, similar to how they're doing this with Tommy DeVito, with Daniel Bellinger. Bellinger has, benefited with Waller being out, getting more reps, but I agree. Is that a Bills banner? I notice it's wide right. Oh my God. I never noticed that. Like I've always seen the banner, Sam, but I've always seen it. You've mentioned it multiple times, but it being wide right never crossed my mind.
Maybe I did that on purpose. I didn't do that on purpose, but that's a very funny joke. But yes, my Bills banner. It's just my AFC team, my other red, white, and blue New York team that I like to support.
Folks, just to clarify, technically, from Sam's perspective, it's to her left. On the camera, it's to the right.
It is. This is my left. So.
But yes, Sam, let's get into our Giants player of the week. We've talked about a lot of players, but ultimately we had to come to consensus with one, and it is none other than the stallion himself, Tommy DeVito. Tommy Cutlets.
I made this a little extra spicy for us today, this graphic. But obviously, as Tom mentioned earlier, our NFC Offensive Player of the Week. And we were mentioning his numbers earlier, nothing crazy, but 17 for 21 for 158 passing yards and a touchdown, 71 rushing yards, which we love to see, and 113.9 passer rating. This is his first career game-winning drive, which led to the obvious game-winning field goal by Randy Bullock. That 37-yard field goal, dead center, loved it. The first New York Giants rookie quarterback to win 3 consecutive games as a starter since Bill Sims, as Tom mentioned earlier, in 1979. 100-plus passer ratings over the last 3 weeks. He's the only quarterback to do that this year. And as an NFL starting quarterback, he is 3-1. And obviously the photos of Dad and Sean Stillano kissing each other on the cheek after the touchdown to Hodgins, just picturesque kind of moment. So obviously our player of the week this week.
That is Tommy DeVito. I can't escape the DeVito jokes. Coworker of mine who played football against DeVito in high school is now just like saying Tommy all the time. And I can't escape that because me and DeVito have the same name, except I don't go by his nickname, as you can see on the screen, but we do have the same name. So we definitely.
I don't think you're a Tommy, Tom. I think you're a Tom.
Absolutely. I do want to get to a comment. Stephen, apologies for not getting to this earlier. Jesse Armstead's role, I believe he's a defensive assistant or quality control. I forget the exact title, but when Brett Bielema left in 2020 for Illinois, shout out Andy Hopper from the Brood Party, if you're watching, he took over as head coach for them. Armstead took over as the outside linebackers coach for us. As far as what he does now, I think he's just a regular defensive assistant. I'm not so sure. I do feel bad for Shep, but the on the wall, man, I hate to say it, someone call the Bravo Network. I would like to learn a little more about his family. Hello from Florida. Stephen Tuttle says, let's go Giants. What's up, Stephen? A couple Stevens in the comments section tonight.
Hello to all Stevens.
Only bad. Daniel Jones is not a bad NFL quarterback, but there comes a point, Sam, I think, where we both admit this. If the Giants look really good at the end of the season and come close to winning out, let's say they win 3 out of their last 4 or win out, which is, again, virtually impossible, folks. That's not what we're saying, but we're just saying if that is to be, which we don't think it will, you have to have a conversation next year. And Gary Myers on social media said something very interesting, and I agree with him. DeVito has not only saved himself a job for next season and beyond, he has potentially also saved Daniel Jones's job as well on the Giants. And that might not be a popular opinion, but here's why. They continue to win games with DeVito, get in the playoff hunt. the Giants won't be drafting a quarterback in the first round, possibly in the second or third round as well. They may draft a guy day 3 to compete with DeVito as the backup. And next year it'll be DeVito against DJ. That'll be the talk. It'll no longer be a rookie. So if DeVito continues to play like this, he's saving Daniel Jones's job. Because if the Giants draft, I don't know, May, Daniels, God forbid it's Caleb, I don't think it will be. It's over. It's over for DJ if one of those 3 gets drafted. But if it's a day 3 guy like Sam Hartman or whoever,
I would love that.
I'm a big Sam Hartman fan.
I love Sam Hartman.
Not happening. As far as Daniel Jones losing his job, but
it's gonna be a lot of time in the off season to talk about that.
Absolutely. Couple things here. Darren Waller might come back this week, Sam. Very excited to talk about that in our Week 15 preview against the Saints. Definitely exciting. I don't know if he'll play. He did not practice today. But definitely an interesting spiel there. The Saints coming off a 28-6 win against the Carolina Panthers. They snapped a 3-game losing streak, and they're favored by 6 points in this game. Goes to show you what people still think about the Giants.
I think that's too much.
I do think it's too much too.
Like I was surprised to see that line. I was expecting more like a 4.5-ish type of line. But yeah, no, I'm pretty surprised at that. But I honestly, I mean, and we're gonna talk a little bit more about game predictions a little bit later, but this is a winnable game. Like this team that we just beat the Chiefs. And like I'm really not afraid of Derek Carr, who's not entirely healthy right now. Their entire team just hasn't really looked all that good to begin with. And yes, they just snapped that 3-game losing streak, but you beat the Carolina Panthers? Like, relax, okay? You lost to a lot of pretty good, decent teams the past few weeks, and I feel like those teams were definitely at a par where we're at now. So pretty excited. I'm not gonna lie. Hi, David.
What's up, David? David, your daughter is getting big, and I'm very happy to see that. Awesome.
She's like up to his hip in that picture.
That's right. That's David Yates from the other side of the pond. Appreciate you, my guy. Hope all is going well. By the way, the NFL just announced a game in Brazil next year.
I saw that.
I know David's from over the pond in the UK, but yeah, so from Scotland, that is. But yeah, it's crazy the way the NFL is expanding internationally. But back to the Giants and the Saints. We'll be having a guest on in just a few moments. Sean Militello from Off the Dome Sports will be joining the show. So I just want to say, Sam, the Giants historically have done well against the Saints, although New Orleans has won 3 out of the last 4 meetings. 2 years ago, I remember going on a podcast with 2 Saints fans, Connor Robinson and Michael Balco, who are friends with Sean, I believe. And they both kind of put the Giants down a little bit, and rightfully so at the time. But Giants won that game in overtime. That was the long be forgotten 2021 season. I don't know if you remember that game.
I do. The Saquon touchdown in overtime. I 100% remember that game. Because I was like, oh my God, we're so back. And
yeah, we're not back. Scouting the Saints a little bit, though. The Saints have the 13th ranked offense and defense in the National Football League. We know they have a solid defense. DBs, Marshawn Lattimore, Paulson Adebo, Alontae Taylor, Tyrann Mathieu, the hometown product.
That's right.
But their weakness is their offense, Sam. And before we bring Sean up, I want to talk to you about Derek Carr a little bit. Great guy. Offensive line in New Orleans is not great outside of Ramczyk and McCoy. They've struggled with Trevor Penning developing him. Their head coach, Dennis Allen, is not great. He a decade ago when he was head coach of the Raiders. Do you think Derek Carr looks like Marv from Home Alone? Do you think there's any resemblance there? And what's your thought on this play? I promise I won't ask you about chocolate chip cookies either. I know that was awkward, but do you think that's an actual thing?
With his hair, like, kind of crazy, I see it. I've never thought of that, but I did think when his hair was much shorter that he looked like Sid from Toy Story, for sure. But the Marv comment, I never thought about it, but it's true. He takes off his helmet and his hair just like expands. Just like, I get it. I like, this is not my natural hair. I have very curly hair. So like, I get how that would be, but that's really funny. And I'm going to go with, yeah, he kind of does remind me of Marv from Home Alone. And Tommy DeVito's Joe Pesci. There you go.
That's right.
We have the Wet Bandits on the field on Sunday.
Joe Horn better keep his phone in his pocket. I remember that. Joe Horn pulled out his phone. I think that was back in the 90s or early 2000s. When you get down to New Orleans, tell Barkley to hit the hole and stop dancing. You know the old line is not that strong. Hit it and score. So, Sam, you were just talking about Saquon, but the matchup for me is Kayvon Thibodeau in this game because, he is our best edge rusher, kind of getting into our keys of the game here while we wait for Sean. Having a couple laptop issues, but him going up against Ryan Ramczyk, who's highly regarded as one of the best tackles in the NFL, should be the matchup of the week. I know Eric McCoy is going to do well, too, against Dexter Lawrence, but if Thibodeau and Lawrence can't get pressure, Derek Carr is capable of throwing dots against this defense. He's very capable of doing it. If Thibodeau and Lawrence can't get to the quarterback, it'll definitely be a problem in this game for Big Blue. What do you think?
I would agree. People are kind of on the lower end of Derek Carr right now, but we're forgetting about the career that this man has had. I know, unfortunately, he hasn't won anything per se, but he's a good quarterback and he's considered a veteran now. Like he's up there. So he's been around for a while. He's been on several teams at this point. Like he knows what he needs to do. And yes, if he's given the time, guy's got a cannon. Like he can make that ball appear in Chris Olave's hand if he so chooses to. So to penetrate the offensive line, to stop Derek Carr, to ransack Chris Olave, like just, I'm honestly, Kamara isn't as scary to me as he once was in his career. I think that he was at one point very, very, very good, but I feel like he has fallen off a little bit, especially with all the things happening with the law and all that stuff. So I definitely think Derek Carr is not someone we should just push to the side because he still is a very good quarterback, like you said, and we should not give him that time to make those connections downfield.
Yeah, I remember our 2021 draft show with Andy Hopper when Carr was still a Raider. We had the Raiders fan Trey on the show, and they drafted Alex Leatherwood in round 1. Total reach, by the way. He's like, well, I guess more protection for Derek Carr. He takes a lot of time to decide, so why not give Derek Carr more time to decide? But speaking of deciding, I've decided it's time to bring up our guest for the evening, Sean Militello from Off the Dome Sports from Louisiana himself. Sean, how are you doing, my friend? Long time no talk.
Absolutely. I'm doing great. I am honored to be on the Big Blue Avenue. I watch a couple of your shows, maybe once a week. I don't know how many times y'all go in 1 week, but I'm ready to get into some Saints versus Giants talk. Tommy Cutlets. And Marv from Home Alone. That's the quarterback battle we have on our hands here. So let's get into it.
Yeah, I was saying that Tommy DeVito could be Joe Pesci in this case, and we'll just have both of the wet bandits on the field on Sunday. So, but yes, let's get into it. Let's talk about your Saints a little bit. And before we even make it onto the field, let's talk about the sidelines for a second and the questions surrounding Dennis Allen. So, what are your thoughts so far on him as your head coach, and how have things kind of changed as the season has gone on?
So, Dennis Allen, 2 years now with the New Orleans Saints as head coach, longtime defensive coordinator, a Sean Payton disciple. He is currently 13-17 right now as head coach for the New Orleans Saints. He has a far more worse record with the Oakland Raiders. So far, the experience has been lackluster. I could tell you that the fans are frustrated. They hate Dennis Allen, to be honest with you. Uh, you know, Going into when we first hired him, at the moment, I thought it was the right hire. I thought he could be like a poor man's Sean McDermott. You know, be a successful defensive head coach in the league. There's not too many of those. Us Saints fans are realizing that. This year, even though I would say we kind of have a better record at this point of the year than last year, I still think we kind of take a step back, in my opinion. The Saints are one of the least disciplined team in the league, and honestly, I think that falls back on coaching. Um, his unwillingness to maybe move on from his offensive coordinator in Pete Carmichael. It seems like they're best buddies, so I guess he's never gonna let him go. So I mean, I call him Pistolless Pete Carmichael. You know what I'm saying? So I mean, it hasn't been great, but we're tied for first in the NFC South in the garbage NFC South. So I mean, I guess it could be worse. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So
It could be worse. That's for
it
sure.
it could be worse.
Um, let's talk about your quarterback. We're just talking about Derek Carr. Um, always been a fan of his. I know he might be on the latter portion of his career right now. He's battling through, I think, some rib injuries this year, playing through in each of the last three games. What do you attribute that to, and how do you think the Carr experiment has gone this season?
So as far as the injuries, I don't think sure it plays an impact on his play recently, but honestly, his play's been about the same throughout the entire season. The experience, has been disappointing, to be honest with you. I do also like Carr, and I loved the signing when it happened. I thought it was a perfect fit. Dennis Allen drafted him in Oakland, the year he got fired. So I mean, he's Dennis Allen's guy. He fights for him. To be honest with you, it's crazy to watch. He didn't do the same with Jameis Winston last year. Once Jameis Winston got hurt, he got benched. It's the difference here with Carr, and that obviously tells you that hey, that's his guy. He's gonna play no matter what if he feels like playing. So the Carr experience, it's I can't tell which person they hate the most. Saints fans, Derek Carr or Dennis Allen. I don't know. Maybe Derek Carr is Marv, and Dennis Allen is what Joe Pesci, like you were saying. So I mean, I wish it just could be better. At this point in time, I don't think it would hurt to maybe go to Jameis in this situation. Maybe let Carr get healthy, because at the end of the day, Carr is under contract for at least one more year. Because after 2024, we could cut him without incurring as much dead cap. Jameis Winston's a free agent next year. So, I mean, it's not like we're going to bring back Jameis. I hope it gets better, honestly.
Yeah, definitely. I'm a big Jameis Winston fan. I've always liked watching him play, and I always feel like his talents are wasted as a backup. So that's interesting that even some fans are thinking because I mean, Carr had two concussions, right? So he's struggling a bit there.
2 concussions and 3 fracture ribs.
Yeah.
So
Not ideal.
But Saints fans, this generation of Saints fans grew up in the Sean Payton, Drew Brees era, so they're a little spoiled. I got the experience right before that era with the Jim Haslett, the Aaron Brooks, the Joe Horn. I experienced about 3 years of that, so I know the struggle. My family has been season tickets holder since the very first game in Tulane Stadium back in 1967. So, I mean, we've been Saints fans all our lives. So we've been through the struggle. I know the struggle. So the fact that we're sitting here 6-7, we don't even know what real struggling is. So I think Derek Carr does get compared to Drew Brees a lot. And I think that's unfair for Derek Carr because to me, Drew Brees, I think the most logical to explain Drew Brees, he's the top 10 quarterback of all time. I say he's top 5. Might be a little biased there. But, I think it's an unfair comparison, and they're used to seeing elite quarterback play, and that simply hasn't happened since 2020. I mean, you look at it, Jameis Winston, great start, but got hurt, had to go to Trevor Siemian. Taysom Hill, which Taysom Hill has a winning record as a starting quarterback. They don't want to play him. They don't want to play him. And then we went to Jameis Winston again, and then Andy Dalton, now Derek Carr. I mean, the struggle is kind of real, but it's not as bad as it could be, So, we'll see what happens.
Let's talk a little bit about your wide receiver, Chris Olave, and what are your thoughts on him so far this season, and how has he developed so far as wide receiver on the Saints?
So I got to give credit to Chris Olave because at the beginning of the year, he struggled with Derek Carr big time, and honestly, it was a mature issue. I understand Derek Carr, not the greatest quarterback. He wasn't doing well himself. They were just having an off connection there. But I think, a lot of blame was being pointed at Carr when just as much as blame should have been on Olave. And it's amazing to watch because Olave has matured as a player and as a person because, he just got arrested for a DUI. He's been great ever since, I guess, after the first 4 weeks. He's about to pass his targets than last year as well as completions. I think he leads all 2022 NFL draft wide receivers in that draft class in receiving yards. So I clearly think he's the best wide receiver out of that draft class, and I think he's a great building piece for the future. I just think we need to give him a better head coach and maybe a better quarterback. We'll see, I do like Chris Olave a lot.
James Kent says, will Tommy Cutlets be the starter when the season starts next year? DJ ain't ready. I think it could go either way. It could be if DJ's not ready or if DJ's not QB1 material. I think it could go either way.
I got to go with Tommy Cutlets, man. Yeah. Tommy Cutlets. I'm a fake Italian, so Militello. I'm not a real Italian. Militello, but
South Italian, right?
Yeah, South Italian. We call her what y'all call it, red sauce up there. We call it red gravy down here. That's what we call it. So
some people in Jersey say gravy. So it's interesting.
That must be the Sicilian, because that's what I am, a Sicilian.
Gotcha.
Sean, speaking of like food and sauce and everything, I know you're a big fan of cake from previous years on the show. I think you know where I'm going with this. Taysom Hill is a Swiss Army knife. We all know that. But what is his best ingredient as a football player? Last time the Giants played the Saints, Taysom Hill scored 2 touchdowns. I don't think he played this past weekend. I think he was out or he was game time decision. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but what is his best ingredient?
One word flexibility. And, if there was a position, just like in fantasy football, you have the flex option, that's his position. He can play tight end, running back, quarterback. Obviously, he's at best when he's running the ball. In my honest opinion, he's the best runner on the team, even over Alvin Kamara. Even though Alvin Kamara has double the rushing attempts, you look at the yards per attempt, Taysom leads that category for the team. And I actually have a stat. Taysom, if he has at least 7 carries per game, the Saints are 18-2. The Saints are 15-1 if he has 8 carries or more. So, I mean, that just tells you how much of an impact Taysom Hill has on this offense and this team. And honestly, I wish he was starting at quarterback, to be honest with you. I mean, I believe he has like a 7-2 record as a starter. It's not like he's a god-awful passer. I mean, he's not great, don't get me wrong, but I think he's definitely serviceable considering all the quarterbacks that we are seeing right now in the NFL. He can't be any worse than a lot of these guys that are playing right now.
For sure. Yeah. I love Taysom Hill. I love watching him play. I think that he's super interesting. And I love when Peyton was just like, yeah, we're going to start him and we're just going to have him in there. And it was wonderful. I loved it. But something that Tom mentioned earlier in the show, which was something he was really looking forward to watching, was Ryan Ramczyk and Kayvon Thibodeau going up against each other. So obviously a great matchup, but what matchup to you is the most intriguing this weekend?
I don't know if this is a little bit of cheating here because technically they're not really matching up on opposite sides of the field. I like the quarterback battle here. Derek Carr versus Tommy DeVito, which I like a lot. I like Tommy DeVito. And honestly, I would prefer him over Daniel Jones. But I would like to see what Tommy DeVito has in him because, I watched a little bit last week or Monday night against the Packers, and I like what I saw, and I would like to see a full game experience from him. And I think he'll have a good game against the Saints. Maybe not overly amount of passing yards, but he had 10 rushes for 71 yards against the Packers. So, and the Saints are one of the worst rushing defenses, run defenses, in the NFL. So I think he might have his way there. And honestly, Derek Carr, I can see him struggling in this game. So it's going to be funny to watch on Twitter. I call him the Saints mob. If Tommy DeVito absolutely balls out and Derek Carr has an absolutely garbage of a game, Saints Twitter might blow up. And that's what I want to see, just because it'd be hilarious. These fans are crazy, man, out here. They just, like I said, they're spoiled. They don't know any better. They're thinking that everybody should be Drew Brees,
So let me just get this straight, Sean. You want DeVito to outplay Derek Carr and still win? Is kind of what you're saying.
Kinda, because like I said, I like Tommy DeVito. Maybe he should be the Saints quarterback next year. Let's go with it. Now we trade you Derek Carr and maybe some. We trade you some Louisiana boudin, which is Louisiana sausage.
Fun basically. Fact: he was offered a richer contract with Washington coming out of the draft, and he chose New York because he could live at home. That was part of his reasoning.
I love it.
When you got a mom who cooks for you and can make chicken cutlets, I would too,
Absolutely. Man, just a couple of comments here. Goofballs said Dexter Lawrence against the bowl of shrimp and grits. Oh, he's calling your interior O-line a bowl of shrimp and grits. Eric McCoy is a pretty good lineman to me. I know he's a little banged up, but I don't know if I'd go as far as shrimp and grits, but going up against Dexter Lawrence is no joke, man. That is no joke. But I want to ask you on your defense. I'm a little nervous about your defense. Your defense is very good. It's been very good this season. One of the better units in the league. I won't say it's the best, but it's definitely one of the better units in the league. Who has stepped up? And this could be multiple players, Sean. It doesn't have to be just one. Who has stepped up this year? Anyone in particular? I've seen a lot of good things from several different players, but we want to hear from you.
So at the beginning of the year, if you would have asked me at the beginning of the year, maybe the first 4 weeks, I would say Carl Granderson. That contract extension we just gave him kind of backs that up. But as the season went on, there's no doubt about it that Paulson Adebo is the defensive MVP this year, in my honest opinion, especially when Marshawn has been down due to injury. He has been elite. I'm not saying he could be this elite for years to come. I hope so. But, he has been great. And honestly, I think it's because Marshawn has been hurt, so he's been moved up to that cornerback number 1 role. So I think he plays better that way. So I don't know why. You're going up against, number 1 wide receivers. So, and Isaac, I can't pronounce his last name. Isaac Yudum.
Yadam. He was ours, by the way. Just want to say he was garbage.
I know. Hey, that's what Dennis Allen does good. He's a secondary guy. You bring in Joe Woods as well as the defensive coordinator. He's another secondary guy. They work their magic with the secondary, but we lose Ryan Nielsen, so that's why our rushing defense run defense has been lackluster. But like I said, Paulson Adebo, I got a stat here. 345 cover snaps without allowing a touchdown this season. 345 cover snaps. That's pretty darn good. That's almost like, Marshawn territory, So I like what I saw from him, and he's the guy. He's the guy for sure.
I love it. Well, since we're talking about the defense a little bit, and you've already shared how much you love Tommy DeVito, what do you think Tommy DeVito's biggest challenge against this defense is going to be? Because he did struggle with some sacks in the past, but last week 0 sacks, which was a huge deal for us. So, what do you think is going to be the biggest challenge for Tommy DeVito going up against your defense?
I do think the struggle will be through the air, obviously, because that's our strong suit. We are not a good pass rushing defense. I think we average about, I don't know, maybe a sack a game. I'm not too sure on that. I know we have a very low sack percentage. We got an old defense in particular. I don't think Tommy has the weapons wide receiver wise. I like what Wandell's doing. I really like him. I picked him up in fantasy. Hopefully he does me well in the playoffs. I'm not going to start him just yet. I want to see what he does against the Saints. But I think he's going to struggle through the air. But what he's going to do well in, and if you go back to Saints versus Jaguars, Trevor Lawrence did well against us. A couple other quarterbacks, Josh Dobbs did good against us on the ground. We struggle against scrambling quarterbacks, and I never took Tommy DeVito to be a scrambling quarterback. But you look back what he did against the Packers. He could very much do that against the Saints. And if they use Saquon to his best ability on the ground, he could have a big game. And if that happens, then that will open up the pass. So that will be the key for the Giants. Get Saquon going on the ground, open up the pass for DeVito, maybe get Wandell in space to make some plays happen. And if you get in the red zone, toss it up to Hodges. That's his name. He just had that red zone touchdown against the Packers. Nice catch. So, yeah, I think those are kind of the keys to the game. Fantasy wise, since I do a fantasy podcast with the 3-man weave, no crying in fantasy, that's what we call it. I would pick Tommy DeVito to have a better fantasy output than Derek Carr. So, I think he's maybe a sneaky little waiver wire play, depending who you have at quarterback. You never know.
You pretty much just said it. Like, DeVito's going to outplay Carr in this game, but you still want the Saints to win, of course. But you're rooting for DeVito to do better than Carr, is also what you're saying.
I think it's a win-win. I think if we lose,
yeah.
if we lose, we hire that draft stock and we'll draft Jaden Daniels. But if we win,
LSU.
Exactly, LSU.
Hey, and who developed him, Sean? Who developed him after transferring in from Arizona State?
Brian Kelly.
That's right.
Mike Denbrock.
Brian Kelly. A great ingredient, by the way.
I was about to say they found all the ingredients, made the perfect cake in the Heisman Award winner. But yeah, Tommy DeVito, maybe a possibly big game.
You're talking about all this. Steal a player from the Giants, if you could. Just rip them up, throw them in the van, and bring them down to New Orleans, put them on the Saints. Who are you stealing from the Giants?
Honestly, and I don't know if you guys would really think who I'm thinking. I would say Tommy DeVito, but I'm not going to go there. But, honestly, give me Cordell Flott, man. Cordell Flott. LSU boy. Has he been covering the slot for y'all? That's his main area. At least at LSU it was. I think he would fit in well with our secondary. We need a true slot guy. Alontae Taylor has been struggling this year. He had been bumped up to the outside again with Marshawn out since Parsons and Debo had to go up. But Alontae Taylor in the slot this year, when he was in the slot, struggled. And I think Cordell Flott would be an excellent addition to our secondary. And he would do really well because, like I said, there's one thing Dennis Allen does well in coaching and discipline. It's that secondary. And that's why we have been one of the better secondaries in the league in the past, 5 or 6 years, ever since Dennis Allen came back to the Saints to be the defense coordinator.
One last question before we go into some game predictions and players to watch. But the NFC South is one of the most interesting divisions, I think, right now. 3 of your teams are all 6-7, apart from the Panthers, which I think at this point we can just kind of throw them in the trash. But with such a close division between 3 different teams, who do you think is going to come out on top of this catastrophic division?
I'm thinking the Buccaneers, and
Okay.
I like what I see out of Baker a lot, and he's found a good connection with Mike Evans, and Chris Godwin, which isn't hard to do because they're excellent wide receivers. But I was expecting the struggle at some point this season, and I don't think I've really seen him struggle once this year. He's gotten Rashard White involved in the receiving game as well. Cade Otton is a underrated tight end. They probably got one of the better offensive lines in the NFC South. Their defense is lackluster, which is kind of surprising considering, they got a defensive head coach in Todd Bowles. But, you look out how they played against Atlanta and how they played against the Saints. They have been the better team against both of them, both of the Saints and the Falcons. So if I had to guess right now, I would say the Buccaneers would come up top. And I hate to say that, I really do. But even after Tom left, I've developed more of a hatred for the Buccaneers. But it lessened when Tom retired. But maybe I'll hate them a little bit more if they make the playoffs.
I will say this season, not throughout their career, but this season, the Bucs have the best quarterback in that division, in Baker Mayfield, which is ironic.
I'm a big Baker Mayfield fan. I've loved him since his Oklahoma days, so I'm loving what he's been doing this past season.
Carr's better long term, but this season, we're judging based on this season.
Yeah.
I would have to lean Baker here. partially
Yeah.
because of who he has at receiver in Evans and Godwin.
Right, and I love the offensive coordinator they grabbed from Seattle. I forgot his name, to be honest with you.
As
But
did I.
yeah, it's some weird name, but he's been doing a great job. So I like what I've seen from him. And yeah, ever since Baker went to the Rams last season
Let's get into
on
our plays
spot
to
duty,
watch.
you know.
Yeah. Sean, let's get into those
Tom,
players
I think you're
to
a little
watch.
laggy there.
Oh. Sam, I'll let you lead here then for a second while I work on this.
Yeah, no problem. Do you want to finish your thought there, Sean, about Baker at the Rams?
Well, I was gonna say, like, with the Browns, you know, I wasn't typically a big fan of him, but like I say, with the Rams, when he went to the Rams, I think he kind of developed this underdog story, you know. So, you know, I don't mind him now. So I think he's doing well.
Definitely. So we'll talk a little bit about keys to the game here. I know we mentioned a lot in the past few minutes here, but what do you think the Saints' key to the game to win against the Giants is?
I would say the key is no turnovers, win the time of possession, score in the red zone, you know, do better with the run defense. I think, you know, if we let Saquon let loose, I think the Giants have it. I really do. Because, you know, they beat a good team in the Green Bay Packers. That was a good team. Jordan Love was on fire. And they beat them. The Giants looked like a good team versus the Packers. And I think they could continue that momentum with the Saints, because the Saints got to be one of the most inconsistent teams in the NFL. You know, they're so up and down. The Atlanta game earlier this year, Carr put on a beautiful first drive, and he just throws a pick six. It's just like, you know, like, come on, man. Like, we can't catch a break. So I think, you know, if Carr can play a clean game, and he has a problem with finding open wide receivers in the middle. He really does. You know, he misses a lot of guys through the middle. He likes to pass towards the sidelines for some reason, and I never got that. So, I mean, you know, rushing the ball, I think we have the advantage there maybe, because I think the Giants also, correct me if I'm wrong, have sort of a weak rushing defense. I'm not too sure on that, but they're not as bad. It's not as bad as the Saints
than previous years.
Right. And so, I mean, I think Kamara could have a big game. You will see a lot of Kamara receptions, especially if Olave is out because he has an ankle injury. Rashid Shaheed is coming back. He will play Sunday. So, so just play a fundamental sound offensive game and stop Saquon. That's all you have to do.
So I guess Saquon's your guy for the Giants then? Is that who? Saquon and DeVito, a little mix of both?
Yeah, I think that's a good little duo you'll have there. Maybe that's the duo of the future, you know?
Sam, what about you here on this one? A couple guys from the Saints, a couple guys from the Giants. Who is catching your eye?
I would say on the Saints for sure. I love watching Cam Jordan play. I think that he is going to be somebody that we gotta keep an eye out for, especially since you know, we need to give Tommy the time. We need to, you know, give receivers, Saquon, everybody needs more than enough time to do what we need to do. So Cam Jordan coming out here and you know, being scary, because that's his job, is to be very scary, and he's very good at it. I'll throw Carr into the mix, obviously. More on like a health watch, seeing, you know, how he's doing on the field in terms of his injuries and so on. And then like literally anybody that's going to be down the field. I mean, they've been dealing with injuries all season long, which is who's coming in, you know, who's been injured, so on and so forth. So anybody that's going to be connecting with Derek Carr down the field, and always got to shout out Cam Jordan.
Agreed, James. James mentioned Jalen Hyatt for the Giants. That should be one. Yet to score a touchdown in his professional career. Sean, we mentioned earlier, Carr's thrown a pick in 3 straight games. The Saints are 1-5 this year in games that they commit 2 or more turnovers. They're 5-1 in games where they commit 1 or less. So I think that's definitely one key for Derek Carr as far as watching him. But for me, Alvin Kamara is one of those guys. I mean, him and Taysom Hill both running the football. Taysom Hill had 2 touchdowns against the Giants a couple of years back. Kamara had 129 yards against the Giants in 2021. Again, much different team.
I remember that.
The Giants' run defense, unfortunately, the Giants' run defense is much better on the second level rather than the first. Outside of Dexter, they struggle. You take him off the field, you throw in the rookies. Jordan Riley, second year, he's technically a rookie, didn't play much last year. DJ Davidson, those 2 guys, they sort of struggle against the run right now. Davidson more than Riley. So with Leonard Williams being traded to Seattle, outside of Dexter Lawrence, they're looking at guys like Ashawn Robinson and Raheem Nunez-Roches, former NFC South guy, to step up to the plate. I still think Olave is a good receiver. He's developing nicely, had a touchdown last week, sort of taking Michael Thomas out of the spotlight a little bit. Rashid Shaheed is an outstanding Z receiver who can burn coverages, I think, personally. And defensively, it's Demario Davis for me. I mean, yes, he's 34, but he's still really good. He has 5.5 sacks as a linebacker. I mean, he's just one off the team lead with Carl Granderson having 6.5. And I think Demario Davis is a really good older version of Bobby Okereke. I think that's who he is. I really do think that he's done a good job this year defensively for the Saints, Sam. So I'm definitely a little nervous about him.
Yeah, for sure. I realized I didn't mention any Giants players, but I'll just say Tommy DeVito. Make it short and sweet.
Tommy Cutlets. Yep.
Little more seasoning for me on the defensive end. I want to mention Xavier McKinney, and here's why, guys. And fans, you want to comment in the comment section about this? I'm all for it. McKinney has played like one of the best safeties in the league the last few weeks. Had the best PFF grade this past week among safeties in the NFL, 90.9 in coverage. He's the 7th-ranked safety in the league this year, according to PFF. And I think that's part of the reason why Pinnock has played really well, Sam, on that back line. Pinnock just collected his 2nd pick of the season. And then, Sean, I'm sure you saw it as a neutral on Monday Night Football. Deonte Banks was phenomenal. I mean, he's got 2 picks on the season. He was making tackles short of the first down marker. He's excellent in coverage. He saved the touchdown on that last drive. He broke it up towards the end zone. It was about to be caught for a touchdown. Where's Michael Thomas? I just mentioned him, James. Yeah. Where is he is right? Where is Michael Thomas, Sean?
Right now.
You might as well, right now, currently, I couldn't tell you. It's almost like a Where's Waldo situation here. You mentioned Deonte Banks out of Maryland. Like the pick, by the way. I think that would be a good matchup if Olave's healthy and ready to go. That would be an excellent matchup. The Giants, if I read this correctly, have been averaging 4 turnovers a game in the last 3 games. Yeah. So, and I like the stat you brought up, Thomas, that the Saints are 5-1 when they commit 1 or less turnovers, and they're 1-5 when they commit 2 or more turnovers. We've been averaging about almost 2 turnovers a game in the last 3. So, I mean, if the Giants can get those turnovers, I think the Giants have, a chance to win the game. It's going to be a close one for sure. I think it's going to be a 3-point, 2-point game possibly. That's the average win margin for both of these teams in the last 3, 2 points, I believe. I don't know. What was the Packers game? What was that score? I don't think that was 2 points.
3 points, right?
3
24
24 to 21.
24.
Okay.
22 for us.
Pretty close. So it's going to be a close game. It's going to be a good game.
22 because they went for 2. Yeah.
Yeah, so it was a 2-point game.
Yep.
Yeah, so
contract year for McKinney. Yeah.
Really, contract year.
Yeah. Everyone balls out their contract year. Daniel Jones last year, when it's like Leonard Williams, everyone balls out. 2 more for me for the Giants. We didn't mention his name yet. Tyre Phillips shut down Rashawn Gary on Monday Night Football. I mean, the Giants as a line gave up 0 sacks, so I think that's one guy I'm watching. Hate to say it, Sean. I know you're an SEC fan. Evan Neal sucks.
Really?
He's
so
horrible.
bad.
He's horrible.
And he's out, dude. And he out for injury right now?
Mm-hmm. He's just lost out there. Phillips, I believe he went to Mississippi State or A&M, one or the other. I get confused with the color scheme, but he's so much better. It just takes competency, Sean. Evan Neal might not be an NFL tackle. I don't know if this has been talked about much, but it's shocking that he came from Alabama and has flopped since entering the NFL. He's so bad. But yeah,
it's almost like Trevor Penning. It's the same situation here.
I would argue he's worse. He's worse than Trevor Penning. He's worse. He's worse. I've seen Trevor Penning. Evan Neal's worse.
Wow.
Yeah.
I think the Giants, they lead the NFL in most sacks given up this year, per game. Is that correct?
Absolutely. Yes, I believe so. And then let's get into our player predictions. I will say, Sean, I'm a big Isaiah Foskey fan. Sucks that he's dealing with that quad injury. You could really use him.
We could.
Andre Miller did not practice. Any notable injuries for you guys this week? And we'll get your score prediction here. Final score prediction. Who wins?
The only injuries, like I've been mentioning, is Olave. He has an ankle injury. I assume that he plays. I think he's listed as questionable. Like I said earlier, Shaheed's going to play, so he's in. I expect Taysom to play. So as far as that's the only injuries I've been seeing. Score prediction. I'm going to go with give me 27-24. I think the Giants going to win. It's going to be a close game. It's going to come down to the wire. I think y'all got Randy Bullock as y'all's kicker. He's going to kick the game-winning field goal, and that's what's going to happen. The Giants are going to win the time of possession on the ground, run that clock. Like I said, this is an old defense, guys. The only reason why this defense is barely hanging on to like top 10 status, I guess, or maybe just top 12 status is they're veterans. So they're highly IQ players. They've been playing in the league for a long time. Matthew, Davis, Jordan, I can go on with it, so, but they're old. They struggle with, on the ground. They struggle with players who can make something happen in space, potential game for Wandell. So I'm just saying, I think it's a potential, upset here, if you can call it an upset. And I think the Giants win 27-24.
You took my score prediction. I have it written down right here. It says 27-24. So I was thinking the same thing, that the Giants are going to pull it out with a game-winning field goal. We have similar minds here, Sean. But yeah,
similar minds.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I agree with what you were saying, and I do think it's going to be a lot closer. We were talking earlier in the show how the line is 6, and I think that that's way too much.
Wait a minute, it's at 6 points, the line? Saints in favor of the Saints?
Mm-hmm.
Nah, that's I would definitely bet the +6 on there. That's too far. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought so too. I was thinking more of like a 4.5 line, possibly. But yeah, so that's gonna be my score prediction as well. 27-24, nice close game.
For sure.
Love that you're both in agreement there. Full participation in practice, Paris Campbell, James, hate to say it.
Don't
Nobody
care.
cares about Paris Campbell. I mean, it was a low risk signing. Appreciate the comment, James, but oh man,
Don't care.
Paris Campbell's been so bad this year. Granted, the whole offense has not been good, but he has not helped his case trying to get yards after the catch and dropping passes. But Sean, you're the first guest this season that has gone against your team as far as game predictions. Every guest of another team that we've had has picked their team. So props to you for believing in us, because most people don't. Look, I don't want to make it a clean sweep for the Giants. But in this case, Sean, I still think you guys have a shot at winning the NFC South. I do. It may look far-fetched a little bit right now, but I have the Giants winning here as well. I have a little bit lower scoring. I mean, both of you picked the game prediction from 2 years ago. I would love that if it happens. But, yeah, Tommy DeVito, Derek Carr don't exactly light up the score sheet right now. I'm going to go Giants 21, Saints 17.
Wow.
That's my final score prediction. I have Giants winning by 4. I think Kayvon Thibodeau gets a sack or 2 in this game. I'm really excited to see how the Giants defense can defend Chris Olave and Juwan Johnson over the middle of the field. Those intermediate routes, definitely a concern of mine. James all went 21-17. Look at that. Appreciate you, James, for all the comments tonight. Goofballs as well. You guys were great. Sean, you were great too. Why don't you plug yourself? Any final thoughts here before we let you sign off?
Let's go back to Thibodeau just for 1 second.
Sure.
Y'all move him around, right? Y'all just don't keep him on one side, right?
Yes, he travels because Aziz is not reliable, and our next best edge is Jihad Ward, who is like 1 million years old as far as being in the NFL.
I think if y'all can find creative ways to get Thibodeau going against our weak side of the offensive line, which is our left side, I think he could have a monster game. And honestly, Carr, if he struggles, he might re-injured his ribs and get another concussion. I mean, I don't wish that for anybody, but I'm just saying, like, that's a likely outcome if Thibodeau finds the right path on our offensive line where we're the weakest, which is the left side. So I think they should heavily game plan for that. And, and I know I picked the Giants, and you said I'm the first, guest on here who picked, the Giants. And I guess that just speaks this season. I think that speaks for, what
for
us
you.
Saints fans. Yeah, us Saints fans are feeling right now. We're frustrated, and we were preparing for the worst. We don't want to be disappointed.
That was me last week. I think, Sam, you went Giants. I went Packers last week. Is that right?
I think we swept last week. I think I picked the Packers too.
I've been going opposition since they were 2-8, Sean. But I really appreciate you coming on tonight. This was a lot of fun. Always love chatting it up with you. Where can people find you before you go?
So you can find me on Twitter, Sean, SEAN _ Militello, MILITELLO. You can find me on Facebook, add me as a friend. I'll add you back. And you can follow Off the Dome Sports on Twitter. I've been inactive for a while now, but eventually I'll get back into the game. I've been on the fantasy podcast as a co-host, so just been chilling and doing that. But eventually I'll get back to Off the Dome Sports. But I appreciate you guys for having me on, and sorry for the video and audio. I had to use my phone. I don't know what's going on with my computer. It wouldn't let me use StreamYard, but I'm glad it is still turned out great. So yeah, I appreciate you guys for having me.
Absolutely, Sean. Have a good one. We'll talk to you very soon. And hey, best of luck Sunday. May the best team win.
For sure. Yeah. Tommy DeVito.
Right.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Sean.
Appreciate you. That was Sean Militello from Off the Dome Sports. Sam, what a show. I think we're going to have to clip off that segment where he said he hopes that DeVito plays better than Carr, and put that on YouTube or something. And by the way, folks, check out Sam's reaction for Monday Night Football. That's up on our YouTube shorts. It's awesome. I love to see it. Sam, it almost went viral. I mean, it's a highly popular video right now. So
it's pretty funny though, because I posted it on my TikTok as well and it didn't do as well. So just goes to show it's all about platforms and everything. But yeah, it's funny. It's just me freaking out. I think my Wandale reaction is the best part. I've like literally like elevated myself off the floor when that happened.
Absolutely. Sam, this has been great. Looking forward to Sunday against the Saints. Folks, if you want to follow Sam and I for our Giants content, we're at Big Blue Avenue, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. Make sure to check us out and give us a follow. We will follow back. But yeah, without further ado, let's go Big Blue.